Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with 10 great bad performances. What is a great bad performance? Well, one of you folks suggested that I do something like this. I'm not sure if it was quite what the suggestion was, but this is the form it took. A great bad performance is a performance that is demonstrably wrong in all kinds of ways, but you'll love it anyway because it's just done so well. It's just put over with such conviction, such vision, such determination. It's so completely owns its wrongness. It just actually convinces you that this alternate reality in which the interpretation lives might just have some validity, and you don't care anyway because it's just, you let it wash over you and it's amazing. And so that's what a great bad performance is, and there are quite a few of them. So, and they come in different varieties. So I'm going to talk about, well, I have 10 of them, and here they are. Are you ready? Beginning with Handel's Messiah under Beecham, the RCA recording with like John Vickers singing. I mean, you've got huge operatic soloists, and you've got this complete reorchestration of Messiah with percussion, snare drums, and bass drum and cymbals, and the Hallelujah chorus. And it's wrong in every possible way. It's totally anachronistic, and it's marvelous. It's just a brilliant performance of Messiah. It's delightful. It's so much fun. And you don't really care that it really might as well not be by Handel at all. It could have been by, like, Korngold or Steiner or some Hollywood film composer, writing a faux oratorio. But what the hell? We love it anyway. That's a great bad performance. And the other great bad performance is also of Messiah. The next one on our list, it's the Ormandy, which I just had the opportunity to listen to because I just talked about, still sitting here, this thing, the 88 CD Ormandy box. Now, that Messiah, first of all, it's cut, like, hugely. I mean, there's, like, bits of it missing, but nobody misses the bits that are missing, at least terribly. And it has, again, splendid soloists led off by Eileen Farrell and the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, 10,000 screaming Mormons. Yes, it's just a marvel. And, one of the things about that Messiah that we all laugh at it. We go, ha, 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 it's all wrong. It's cut. It has, big operatic soloists. It's got this huge choir and orchestra. Well, that's probably more authentic than the period instrument performances of the Messiah, because these Handel festival things that happened in just following his death in the 1780s and whatnot, when like Haydn was there and saw a Handel festival performance. I mean, that's what they did. They got together thousands of screaming people and as many instrumentalists as they could, and they rewrote and cut the crap out of whatever they wanted to, and they rearranged whatever they wanted to rearrange, and that's how they performed Handel back in the day. And that's what Ormandy did today. So there is a sense in which this demonstrably wrong, bad Handel performance with its slowish tempos and unbelievably excessively large forces is probably closer to an authentic Handel experience than anything you're going to hear from today's historically informed performance people, which I find just fascinating. And somehow, it's kind of like, karma's a bitch, It's sort of how I feel about it. But yes, there it is. So those are horrendous, but wonderful in their way. Next, oh yes, Celibidache. Now, I talk about what a toxic cult Celibidache has, and he does. The Celibidache people are usually out of their minds. But he did make a couple great recordings, aside from Bruckner, of course. And one of them was Debussy's La Mer, with the whole thing takes twice as long as it normally does. It's like, oh, God knows how long, 40 minutes, 45 minutes. It usually takes like 22 minutes. The opening movement alone is something like 14 minutes. I don't know. It's just ridiculous. And there's actually a rehearsal, I think, with him rehearsing the opening, spending 50 hours in rehearsal on 2 bars of music, making sure the harp goes blink instead of blink. Could you tell the difference? And but there are things he did at his ridiculously slow tempos with his constant attention paid to chording and balance and texture. I mean, forget linear movement or anything like that. That was not happening. But the idea of just making every single chord, and in Impressionist music, Debussy was a chord guy, not a line guy, and Celibidache was a chord guy, not a line guy. And so, that La Mer is fascinating. It really is. It's powerful and it's evocative, and it maybe sounds like a different piece at times, but it's an extraordinary vision for somebody who just worked on that thing and focused like a laser eye on it. And I think it's really rather cool. I wouldn't play it constantly. It's not a normal performance, but of course these are great bad performances. So for something that is completely and utterly wrong-headed in virtually every possible way and several impossible ways, it's a pretty cool performance. Next, oh yes, you'll know this one. You'll be familiar with this one. Haydn, the Farewell and Military Symphonies with Hermann Scherchen on Westminster. It's like with the Vienna State Opera Orchestra or whatever, and it's in stereo. Some of the military symphony is a remake, at the very least. It is grotesque. It's grotesque and so much fun. Oh, it's just ridiculous. The finale of the military. First of all, he's the first person to take the military symphony seriously. I mean, the military movement, the second movement, when the percussion comes in, you just go, ah! It's like the 1812 overture does the 18th century. I mean, it's explosions and bombs going off, and it really sounds scary, which is just marvelous. It's just pow, crash. I love it. And the finale is taken at such a tempo that the orchestra can barely play it. The articulation, forget it. There's no articulation. But, it's... And it's like... And they're trapped. These players, they're stuck. They're like hamsters running frantically in a cage. They can't stop. They have to just keep going because he's doing this, and they're trying to keep up. And at the end, when the percussion comes back, and it's crash, 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 crash. Oh, it's just insane. And that's not even the craziest thing. The craziest thing is the Farewell Symphony, because in the Farewell Symphony, what happens is when the farewell happens in the finale, as the players get up and leave, he has them say goodbye. You hear all these, you hear people get up and they say, Auf Wiedersehen. And then you hear footsteps receding in the distance. Clop, 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 clop. I mean, it is the most unbelievable thing you've ever heard in your life. But he managed to come up with a audio way, when you're listening to the farewell, that you can hear the farewell happening. It fares well. I mean, it's the most demented recording of anything I've ever. It's not actually. Scherchen actually did even more demented things. There's a live recording of him doing Mahler's Fifth Symphony with the scherzo cut down to 6 minutes. It usually takes about 15 or 16 minutes, and he just chops it up. But the Adagietto, oh yes, that takes like 15 minutes. It usually takes like 10. Yeah. So after that, another oddball performance. It's just so awful. It's marvelous. Tchaikovsky's Fourth with Stokowski. Now, there are two of them that you can play with. One is on Vanguard, and it's twisted enough in the finale particularly. But the other one is on Music and Arts, and it's live, and it's unbelievable. It takes the one on Vanguard to the next level. I mean, the closing pages have so many changes of tempo and accent and agogics, as they call them in the biz, that you won't even recognize it as the same piece. It is so perverse. And, there's the tam-tam crescendo at the end. Let's not forget that. I mean, that Tchaikovsky, of course, didn't write. Unbelievably demented and twisted and fun. Oh, so much fun. And it's done so well. It's like the Scherchen, these guys, they were serious. They were not Dadaists. They were not trying to paint a mustache on the Mona Lisa. They were convinced that what they were doing was representing what the composer wanted in the best possible way. Yeah, that was the theory anyway. So it's just terrific. Now we have to get serious. It's more serious, of course. Bruckner's Fifth Symphony with Lovro von Matacic, and the Czech Philharmonic on Supraphon. Well, why is this a great bad performance? It's actually a very good performance of Bruckner's Fifth, but it's the old Schock edition, which is completely reorchestrated and cut and tried and futzed around with, and and in the finale, when the chorale comes in, you've got the extra brass section and cymbals and triangle going off. I mean, none of which Bruckner wrote. It's really bad rescoring, and the idea was to make it better. And everything that they did, it made it worse. I mean, everything. I mean, the reorchestration softens the outlines of Bruckner's really clean-edged orchestration, and all of that sort of Wagnerian fussing and blurring of Bruckner's clean contrapuntal lines. Oh, it's grotesque. I mean, how anybody could have thought that that was like better or an improvement, I have no clue. Bruckner would have been turning over in his grave, but it's a very, very good performance. It was on Denon and it's on Supraphon, and if you can find it, and if you like Bruckner's Fifth, and if you want to hear the bastard version in its best so far representation, then that's the recording to get. It's a great bad performance, without a doubt. Also a great bad performance, Toscanini's Tchaikovsky Manfred Symphony. Why he bothered doing the Manfred Symphony, I have no idea. But he reorchestrates a lot of it, at least in the first movement, and he cuts the finale, and he adds tam-tam crashes. Why not? At the end of the first movement. I mean, anything that you add a tam-tam to is an improvement. We all know that. It's a completely disrespectful and interventionist performance by a conductor who was known as, performing everything come scritto, as written, fidelity to the score. He wasn't so faithful to the score. He really wasn't. Not anything like, his reputation would suggest. But this is the performance where he really kind of goes off the rails and just messes with it. And, Tchaikovsky, I mean, he's already appeared once. Tchaikovsky is one of those composers who, for some reason, people feel they have the right to diddle. I mean, it's open season on Tchaikovsky, always. It always was, even in Russia. The Russian conductors always messed with Tchaikovsky. I mean, and did cuts and things and stuff, because the idea being that he was just so emotional that he really couldn't handle, the more intellectual side of things like, form. Which is, of course, nonsense. I mean, he could be absolutely brilliant in his handling of form, what he wanted to be. But it was a combination of this sort of prejudice against, something is either formally good or emotionally good, but it can't be both. Sort of like after Beethoven anyway. It's nonsense. But also, the concept that, that because Tchaikovsky hated everything he wrote. He was on record, I really hated this, and it's terrible. Listening to it makes me sick. He was always very over the top in the way he expressed these things, that we had to fix what he thought was wrong. Of course, he never told us exactly what he thought was wrong, only that he thought everything was wrong. So the fixes, as often as not, don't improve anything. And the Toscanini Manfred is a fabulously exciting performance of Manfred, the bits of it that he actually plays. Oops. And here's one. When we get to today's period, we have great bad performances that operate in a very different way than great bad performances used to, because great bad performances formerly usually involved some sort of textual manipulation, cuts and rescoring and all that stuff. Nowadays, where everything is, Werktreu, as they say in German, faithful to the essence of the work, you're not allowed to diddle as much as you used to. So you have to do a great bad performance by going over the top in the other direction. That is, by doing everything with such faithfulness and fidelity and obsessiveness that it just sucks all the music out of the piece. And my locus classicus for that are the marvelous, magnificent, unbelievably perfectly played in every single particular Chopin piano concertos 1 and 2 with Christian Zimerman on DG, with his own, Royal Chopin, whatever ensemble. It's a pickup group, I think, or some festival thing he did, where you have a workshop. at a festival, and you hire all kinds of young, impressionable students who don't know any better, and you stick them all together. It's what Currensis did, the same thing with the Mozart operas. You turn them into a clinic, and the result sounds clinical. You have these absolutely scrubbed, polished, studied interpretations in which every single note has been considered and weighed, and then you make a recording of the whole symposium. And the result is immaculate in every conceivable way. I'm just extraordinary. All of this talent and virtuosity put at the mercy of playing just these two pieces with complete and utter disregard for humanity, expressiveness. It's really kind of astonishing to hear them. They are great performances of their kind. But that kind is a strange, strange beast. It really is. I have another one, actually, as the next example. It's Boulez's Mahler 7th with Cleveland on Deutsche Grammophon. When I first heard this performance, I'm like, holy crap. Cleveland was the perfect orchestra for this, by the way, because they are the most transparent and sort of, they're naturally, supernaturally accurate in almost everything that they do. A legacy of Sell and Dochnani as well, because he was just like that. And so this Boulez Mahler 7th is a complete evisceration of Mahler 7th. Now, the 7th isn't the most emotional of Mahler's symphonies. It really isn't. It has an element of abstraction and of sort of distancing that the other symphonies do not. And so I can understand, the temptation. But this takes it to a whole nother level. I mean, this is a completely abstract symphonic fresco. There is not a shred of human warmth or feeling anywhere in the interpretation. I think it's fascinating. I really do. I mean, it's amazingly well done. Yeah, I mean, the second Nacht music is very, very fast and totally cold, but so is the whole performance. And it's spectacularly well played. And you just wonder why they even are doing this. I mean, what's the point? It's a like I said, it's like a Jackson Pollock. The music is just dripping in front of us, and the dripping patterns are really kind of fascinating. But what they mean, I don't know. And last but not least, Stokowski has to get he's got to have 2 entries here because he was, the king of the great bad performance. I mean, because he never saw a piece of romantic music he couldn't screw with in one way or another. And the best of all, and some of you may know this already because I've talked about it before, is his recording of Wotan's Farewell and the Magic Fire music that comes after with the Houston Symphony on Everest. What he does to this piece is unbelievable. I mean, you've got, first of all, it starts in the middle of nowhere, and you've got, the vocal part sort of played by, sounds like a bunch of saxophones or something. I don't know. And then the fire music starts, okay? And you get, Wagner wrote for 6 harps. It sounds like 600 harps. You have just like this, the harps are harpicizing, like, oh my God. And then you have that, da, 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 the magic sleep motive. I think he adds an organ, at least at the beginning. It's an organ. There's definitely some other instrument there. No brass section could ever make the sound that comes out of your speakers at that moment. And then you've got just this sensual, gorgeous, just flood of harps and dreamy strings, and the very last chord, it's a wind chord. It's for brass and woodwinds at the end of Walküre. Not here. Here it's for strings. There are no brass and woodwinds. You just have the harps are doing their harpy things, and the violins are just getting higher and more ethereal, and finally there's just this sensual mist of violin tone, dissolves into the blue Empyrean heights. Yeah. There's nothing whatsoever to do with Wagner. It is the most demented thing I've ever heard done to Wagner, and it's just wonderful. Oh my God, it's fabulous. It works better than the original, but it's a bad performance. Oh, he got away with it. A great one, too. So there you have it, my friends. 10 great, really great bad performances. I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. Keep on listening and take care.